What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I'm your host, Pat Deneen, and right now we're going to look into tonight's episode of Monday Night Raw taking place. A lot of big matches. At minimum, we have 8 matches, 4 for the men, 4 for the women. This is the first round for the King and the Queen of the Ring tournament. So we're going to break down all 8 of those matches, who I personally see coming out with the victory here. And I don't know about you guys, but being a big fan of the Golden Era, late 80s, early 90s, right into the Attitude Era, I was a huge fan of King of the Ring growing up. So I'm glad to see that this tournament has been brought back, seemingly, taking place Saturday, May 25th in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia at the Jeddah Superdome. And again, of course, we were familiar with King of the Ring, and now the women get their opportunity. Queen of the Ring as well. I believe it was late 2021. The finals also took place in Saudi Arabia, where we saw Finn Balor and Xavier Woods go head-to-head. Xavier Woods got the win there. And we saw Zelina Vega and Doudrop. Now Piper Niven again. Thank God she got rid of that Doudrop whole gimmick and name and stuff. But so we had 2 great matchups there, and we saw King and Queen get crowned that night. And here again, we'll have the finals in just a few weeks' time. So tonight also marks the very beginning of the new rosters in full effect since the draft that took place a week ago. So Monday Night Raw tonight, SmackDown Friday, even NXT Tuesday. There's been a lot of adjustments made. Not so much of people going to NXT, but NXT lost some significant players, that's for sure. I personally, as probably a lot of people, assumed that NXT was going to lose even more, so I think NXT got to hold on to quite a bit of talent, even though they lost Dragunov, who else? Lyra Valkyria, Blair Davenport, Kiana James, Carmelo Hayes, and Dijak being brought back up to Monday Night Raw. Think I covered most of the NXT call-ups, but so all of them are great, right? They're all great in their own right, but NXT still has a ton of talent, so I'm really looking forward to the landscape going forward and seeing how that's going to shape up. So without further ado, let's get into these matchups for Monday Night Raw. Again, we have 4 on the men's side, 4 on the women's side, and they're all pretty intriguing. They really are. So again, this is all going to lead to the finals for the men and the women on Saturday, May 25th in Saudi Arabia for King and Queen of the Ring. So let's start here with the women. I want to start here with Zoey Stark going one-on-one with Ivy Nile. This should be a very good match, very physical matchup for sure. I'm going to go with Zoey Stark getting the win here. Okay, I think she's due for a win, quite honestly. She's been on the main roster a little bit longer than Ivy Nile, and I think if it comes down to one of them getting the push to the next round, it should be Zoey Stark. Now, from there, we're going to go to Zoey Stark's tag team partner the last couple of months, Shayna Baszler, going one-on-one with the newest member of Monday Night Raw, Zelina Vega. Now, I mentioned the last time they had this tournament, she is the winner, so she's defending that crown. It's been a couple of years, but Queen Zelina, much different gimmick these days, member of the LWO and a babyface. At the time, she was far from being a babyface. This should be a good match, but I think it's very clear to see that, unfortunately, Zelina Vega will not be defending that crown past this first round. I think Shayna Baszler gets the win. Another one, I've said it time after time, month after month, year after year. Shayna Baszler, very underutilized on this main roster, although a 3-time WWE Women's Tag Team Champion. Since being on the main roster the better part of 4.5 years now, hasn't had much success in singles. So I think this will be great. Getting this victory over Zelina Vega. Again, Zoey Stark, Shayna Baszler, they've had their bumps in the road on the main roster, but this will be good, and hopefully we see them go head-to-head next round. That would be fun to see Zoey versus Shayna. Now we have Lyra Valkyria, one of the newest members of the Monday Night Raw roster, coming up from NXT, former NXT Women's Champion, of course, going up against another former champion who just lost her tag team title this weekend, Asuka. This is going to be very good. They both could use a win in singles, that's for sure. A, Lyra establishing herself on the main roster on Monday Night Raw, and B, Asuka kind of bouncing back, although it was a tag team loss, hopefully coming back, getting that much-needed victory to boost morale and such could really be beneficial. There's a part of me that kind of wants to see Asuka win this, and you're going to see why more so when I get to my next matchup here, the 4th and final women's match for the Queen of the Ring first round on Monday Night Raw, but Lyra Valkyria, I think it's more imperative for her to get a big win over a notable name. I'm pretty sure that Asuka's a Grand Slam champion, right? She's won the tag title a couple times, SmackDown, and Raw Women's Champion, certainly an NXT Women's Champion, Money in the Bank, so she's done it all. So this would be a huge victory for Lyra to establish herself on Monday Night Raw in a Queen of the Ring tournament. So as much as I'd like to see Asuka, I'm going to go with Lyra getting the win here. In the fourth and final match, we have another Damage Control member in Iyo Sky going one-on-one with Natalya, the Queen of Hearts. Now this is a matchup, simply put, where I see Iyo Sky getting the victory. Selfishly, I was hoping Asuka won the other match. She still could. I'd like to see Asuka win that one, so we see two members of Damage Control go head-to-head, Asuka and Iyo Sky. I thought that would be great, but I don't necessarily see that happening. I think, and that's even depending upon how the bracket goes. Who knows if those two would even be facing off. It could be Shayna or Zoey and so on, but that's just a little bit of a dream match in this tournament. So I'm going to go with Iyo Sky getting the win here. So I'm going with Zoey Stark, Shayna Baszler, Lyra Valkyria, and Iyo Sky getting victories on Monday Night Raw as far as the Queen of the Ring tournament is concerned. Now let's head on over to this men's tournament. I mean, just when you thought things were getting good here with the women, these men's matchups are looking really good. Some very notable names, a lot of former WWE and world champions here, and future, that's for sure, when we get to Gunther and Ilja Dragunov and such. So let's go with this first matchup here, where we have the Scottish Warrior. We have Drew McIntyre going one-on-one with Finn Balor. As much as this will be a good match, I'm just going to cut to the chase here and go with a very pissed off Drew McIntyre. Now, Finn has his reasons to be pissed off too, being that the way he's been treated lately by his former tag team partner and Judgment Day stablemate, Damian Priest. Of course, he pushed off JD McDonough and Finn the other night, saying, "I don't need you guys interfering with my matches and stuff." So that's a whole nother story for another day. But as good as this match should be, Drew McIntyre's got his own revenge, right? He was world champion not even 5 minutes, give or take, at WWE's WrestleMania 40 after being cashed in on by whom else but, again, Finn's stablemate, Damian Priest. So he may take that anger and frustration from Damian Priest on his buddy there in Judgment Day. So Drew McIntyre's going to get the win here. Heading over to this next match, we got Kofi Kingston going one-on-one with the newest member of Monday Night Raw, Rey Mysterio. Of course, Rey Mysterio, Zelina Vega, and so on, all members of LWO. That whole stable was moved from SmackDown to Monday Night Raw. Now, this one's a little difficult. You got two veterans in here. This could really go either way. Do they want to give Kofi Kingston a bit of a push in this tournament, being that his tag team partner in the New Day, Xavier Woods, did win this 2.5 years ago? So I could see Kofi getting the win just as easily. But much like Lyra Valkyria to a point, it's different. Lyra's coming up from NXT, but making her way to Monday Night Raw, just like Rey Mysterio making his way from SmackDown to Monday Night Raw, I see Rey Mysterio getting the victory here and advancing in the King of the Ring tournament. Now here we have a very interesting matchup that we've seen on a couple of occasions in 2022, in 2023, and that is the Ring General Gunther versus Sheamus. Now we first saw these two go head-to-head at Clash at the Castle in 2022 in Cardiff, Wales, where it looked like Sheamus was finally going to become a Grand Slam champion. That one title that's eluded him his whole career, still to this day, that Intercontinental Championship, and he did not get the job done there. Now fast forward to a few months later, WrestleMania 39, we had a triple threat match with Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Gunther again for Gunther's Intercontinental Championship. And once again, Sheamus was unable to get the job done, and I was really pulling for Sheamus to finally, for two reasons, to finally, A, become an Intercontinental Champion and become a Grand Slam Champion, and B, end Gunther's reign. Now, although I am glad that Gunther had a nearly 2-year reign, losing it a year later, WrestleMania 40 to Sami Zayn, popular or unpopular opinion, as much as I like Sami Zayn, I was in the building to see Sami dethrone Gunther just 1 month ago, but I would have much rather seen it be Sheamus or even a Chad Gable be the one to take that Intercontinental Championship off of Gunther. But hey, it is what it is, and so here we stand. We're in the King of the Ring tournament. Sheamus just returned a couple of weeks ago, and we have Sheamus versus Gunther. This is tough. Third time's a charm, perhaps, for Sheamus to finally get some revenge, get some redemption here, and advance in this tournament. This is really a toss-up to me. Sheamus could very easily win, maybe run into Drew McIntyre later in this tournament. I'm going to go with Gunther, though. This is a tournament where, a lot of people are favoring Drew McIntyre to potentially win this thing, and of course, that's a great choice. Not to get too ahead of myself here, but I do think that Gunther is going to win this whole damn thing. I think this tournament is kind of made for somebody like him. If there's two individuals to win this men's tournament right now, I would probably have to lean towards Gunther who I'm going to speak about in just a moment's time, potentially an Ilja Dragunov. That's another one, just making his way from NXT, former NXT champion. Gunther and Ilja Dragunov, they've had some knockdown, drag-out fights in the past when Gunther was Walter on NXT UK and NXT. So, I mean, those are my two favorites to win this whole tournament for the men. Gunther, Ilja Dragunov, and then, of course, Drew McIntyre. Got to be in the conversation there. But I'm going to go with Gunther over Sheamus, which leads us to our 8th and final matchup for the tournament overall between the men and women on this episode of Monday Night Raw. And we have Ricochet versus Ilja Dragunov. Now, I haven't watched the past couple of weeks. I know there's been this tournament that's been taking place on Twitter or X exclusively. These matches are 3 minutes or under, and it's called Speed. It's a speed tournament. And just the other day, I believe it was Thursday or Friday, there was the finals of that tournament where we had Ricochet versus, I believe it was Johnny Gargano. Long story short, Ricochet got the victory. For what it's worth, this new experiment of a championship, of a concept, of a tournament, I can't judge it either way because I really haven't tuned in. 3-minute matches, I don't know how to feel about it, but I'm sure they were able to accomplish a lot in that time, especially a guy like Ricochet. Deserved champion, and I say that to say this, although he just won that Speed Championship, that's all good and well, pat on the back, congratulations, inaugural, etc. There's no way in hell Ilja Dragunov is losing this matchup. All right, as much as I was a little uncertain about Lyra Valkyria, another former NXT champion as of recent, coming to the main roster, much like Dragunov for this tournament specifically on Raw, Lyra, Asuka was a little up in the air, but as far as it comes to Ricochet and Dragunov, no knock to Ricochet, Dragunov's winning this, simply put. He's here to make a statement. He's the Mad Dragon for a reason, and he's personally one of my favorites in all of WWE. You know, certainly was on NXT the last year or so, and he's definitely going to be one to watch if you're not familiar with him, if you only watched Raw and SmackDown, haven't been a big NXT UK, NXT guy, or even his work prior to making his way to WWE. But I'm going with Dragunov here. So, again, for the men, I have Drew McIntyre, Rey Mysterio, Gunther, and Ilja Dragunov in this first round on Monday Night Raw for the King of the Ring tournament. And that just about does it. Those are the 8 matches. We'll find out, I'm sure, if not tonight, in the coming days, what matchups we'll have to look forward to for both the men and the women for the King and the Queen of the Ring tournament this Friday on SmackDown. That will be taking place as well. Now, I'm going to assume that there will be 8 matches additionally. I don't know if they will all take place this Friday, being that SmackDown is only 2 hours, whereas Monday Night Raw is 3 hours. So maybe we'll only get 4 of those matches, potentially 6, depending upon. Maybe they don't do 8 and 8. You know, maybe they're doing 8 on Monday Night Raw. Maybe they'll do just additionally 4 men and 4 women from SmackDown because it's a little bit less of a roster, being that they don't need as much talent due to the fact, again, it's only a 2-hour show where Raw is 3. So we'll see. But I hope it is 8 and 8. Give everybody a fair shot, a fair chance from both brands. And let's see how this thing works out. Certainly a huge fan, as I said in the beginning, of the King of the Ring. And now we have the King and the Queen of the Ring. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it's taking place Saturday, May 25th in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And Triple H tweeted this on Monday afternoon with the graphic. By the way, the graphic has Logan Paul, the United States champion, Sami Zayn, the Intercontinental champion, Becky Lynch, the WWE Women's World Champion, and the new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions, Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. Last but certainly not least on this graphic, at the forefront is the WWE Champion, Cody Rhodes. As the ongoing joke is, even though it's probably not too funny to her, although Damian Priest isn't on this graphic either as the World Champion, and neither of the men's tag team champions are on here. To be fair, if we're going to be ticky-tacky about, you know, what champions are on here, what champions aren't, yet again, Bayley gets snubbed, right? She's been getting snubbed her whole career from the main posters and graphics for upcoming events, namely when she's champion. Even the Royal Rumble, right? She had just won the Royal Rumble, and for the next shows coming up, whether it was the Elimination Chamber or whatever they had going forward, even getting ready for WrestleMania 40 weekend, you know, and all that, they were putting, you know, of course, Cody was there, another guy who had just won the Rumble, right? And then they had Bianca Belair and all these other men and women, and she's like, hey, you know, I'm a Royal Rumble winner as well, multi-time champion. Where am I on this graphic? So yet again, she gets snubbed, and the hits just keep on coming for Bayley, and it continues. But hey, at least she had a successful title defense this past weekend, and in France at Backlash. So Triple H wrote with this graphic on Twitter, he says, an opportunity for superstars to take their thrones, defend championship gold, and deliver a massive spectacle in Jeddah. WWE King and Queen of the Ring streams live on May 25th at a special start time of 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Peacock. So we have another early one, folks, coming up just a couple weeks' time. You know, over the weekend it was, 1 p.m. in France, and here we are, 12 noon for King of the Ring taking place in Saudi Arabia. That's just the way it is. And so we'll see what matches take place. You know, maybe we'll get a Cody Rhodes AJ Styles rematch. Maybe not. But one thing's for certain, we will be getting the King and the Queen of the Ring finals taking place there. Perhaps we'll see the United States Championship be defended on this card, just based upon looking at the graphic, right? Sami Zayn possibly defending his Intercontinental Championship. So, you know, Logan and Sami should be on the show. And then here we have Becky, right? Bayley just defended her title at Backlash. Now it's time for Becky, perhaps, to defend her title as well. So this should be fun. Really looking forward to it. And yeah, that pretty much sums up this episode of Turnbuckle Topics. Thank you as always for tuning in. Appreciate you guys. I hope you're looking forward to Monday Night Raw tonight. I know, you know, I definitely am. Namely, to check out these first round matchups for King and Queen of the Ring. Gives you something. There's stipulations. It's importance. It's meaning. It's what we all long for, right? You know, whether it's storytelling or just meaning behind it. You don't want to go out there and just see things taking up time and not really having any level of importance. Just filler, right? So at minimum, we have 8 matches. That means something. And so I think we'll be well on our way and take it from there. All right, guys. Thank you as always for tuning in to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. I am your host, Pat Deneen, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.